Mr. Freeze has always been a giant nerd. A 98-pound weakling, a scientist, a brainy boy in a beefy mecha suit. So if you were to gender flip Mr. Freeze, you might think to yourself, okay, a nerdy female scientist in a beefy mecha suit. But no, you'd be wrong. The actual way to introduce Mrs. Freeze is as a carbon copy of Zarya from Overwatch, or I guess it's Overwatch 2 now, in one of her winter outfits. Now, naturally, any change made to anything at all in video games ever has drawn a lot of ire from people on the internet, especially on Twitter, who have been, sort of talking nonstop about Mrs. Freeze and her design and how she looks like a man and all this other shit. And we're not going to address any of that stuff. We're just going to talk generally about the fact that this is a terrible, horrible design. What the hell? First of all, why is this character a bodybuilder? Mr. Freeze has never been a bodybuilder. I don't understand where this came from. Oh. Oh, okay, you know the character from the movie. Okay. Now, looking at this design and how thrown together it is, you got the fur collar obscuring red lights on the costume so that the lights show through the fur, and you've got, I don't know, again, a Zarya outfit, even with the little ports that, go to nothing, and it's just a confusing mess. So I decided to see, what would AI do with this? Because the big issue right now is AI taking our gerbs, and, let's poke at that. Let's rip that Band-Aid off. Let's actually see what happens when AI designs a Mrs. Freeze character. Just for the fuck of it. This is, to make people angry, but also when the anger subsides and you, finally unclench your fists and you hit send on the comment, maybe after that you'll stop and think, Jesus, people are kind of throwing away their jobs here. People are throwing it to AI. And, maybe you'll be a crackpot like me and you'll think, wait a minute, are companies purposefully putting out shit so that everybody will welcome AI as a fresh change of pace? Who knows? Anything is up in the air at this point. It's emerging technology, it's disruptive technology, and we don't know what's coming. We all know what's coming. It's the fucking robot apocalypse. So yeah, here are 4 Mrs. Freeze designs that an AI generated, and I want you to let me know in the comments below, do you prefer these, or do you prefer the official one? And try to remove the fact that it's AI from your mind for a moment, because what I want to do is I want to run sort of an experiment here and say, are people essentially throwing their jobs away as character designers in the industry? Are they throwing their jobs away and handing them over to AI? What do you think? Let me know what you think. Now again, the designs we're going with here are based on the nerdy 98-pound weakling inside a mecha suit. It's really hard to get AI to generate a mech suit that isn't just naked robot, like with exposed wires and shit. But yeah, so we'll see what we can get out of this. The first design here, I really like this design. Because what we've got here is a female Mr. Freeze. You can tell, the red goggles, the ice outfit. You can tell immediately what character this is. You look at the Suicide Squad game character, and honestly, if you, recolored it, it could be Mrs. Scarecrow, or Mrs. Riddler, or Mrs. Joker. Just change the colors up, and all you have is a completely unrecognizable character. So we've incorporated the actual ice here. One of the things I dislike most about the Mrs. Freeze design that came out of the Suicide Squad game DLC that you can buy now, one of the things I most dislike is there's no incorporation of just actual ice, like just raw ice. I always like Mr. Freeze's designs when they incorporate ice, just boldly outside of the costume, just, sprouting off of it. So we've got some icicles here, we've got basically what looks like the most dangerous outfit to fight in ever, where you're just going to stab yourself in the throat or the head at any moment. But that's what I like about stuff like this, is it's cartoony, it's comic booky. It doesn't have to make logical sense. Not everything has to, adhere to the drudgery of real life and look like a fucking hazmat suit. And of course our character is bald, because Mr. Freeze is bald, and why would you give a Mrs. Freeze character hair? You keep the baldness. It's weird, it's freaky. It works. It works for the character. It makes Mr. Freeze look alien. I'm offending every bald person out there, but that's okay. And we're going to keep that for Mrs. Freeze as well. Because, hey, it's 2024. Now our next design here is more of like a, I guess, like anime manga design. I know you weebs out there like your Japanese shit. I'm not a fan, but, you know, hey, whatever. It's not for me. It's for you guys. I'm doing all of this for you. So we've got sort of what reminds me of like a sort of manga aesthetic. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm a complete fucking idiot, but it brings to mind like the mechs of like the Evangelion, you know, stuff and all that shit. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not a weeb. Anyway, moving on. I decided to try to incorporate sort of like an angel aesthetic to the character, with like icicle wings and, you know, shit like that, to try to give sort of like a ethereal nature to the character, like to make Mrs. Freeze sort of like an angel of death, freezing over the, you know, entire planet and bringing about the next ice age and all that shit. And, you know, the design itself, a little bit janky, but I do love the fact that the AI decided to put a crack on the side of her head. Like, fucking, that is fucking great. I love that as a little bit of a character touch. Of course, it's a soulless AI doing it, so there was no real logic behind it. But I love the idea that a Mr. Freeze or a Mrs. Freeze design could be so far gone that their skin is actually starting to crack from the, you know, from their whole situation. I just think that's a really cool touch, and I'm all about little character touches like that, little indicators, little, you know, lore bits. Not so much into things that look like they were hot glued together by a 3-year-old. And then finally we have my favorite here, and the reason this is my favorite is because it is the most simplistic and the most direct. What we've got here is a nerdy female scientist. Where is our gawky, awkward nerd girl representation in video gaming? Come on! We've got the bald head. We've got the very striking red goggles, incredibly striking. We've got a orb around the head, sort of like a snow globe. And that makes perfect sense for a Freeze character, just to have a big old snow globe for a head. And, you know, we've got the icicle shoulder pads, we've got the ice chest plate, and we've got the little dots on the arms and stuff that sort of bring to mind like snowfall. And these could be like, you know, glitter or, you know, whatever the fuck, you know, in practice if this were to be an actual character design. And all in all, I just think that this is the one that comes together the best. This is Mrs. Freeze to me. I would have actually preferred a alternate reality where Nora Freeze was the scientist and Victor Freeze was the one, you know, with the disease, you know, that was trying to be cured. So I like to imagine this character as literally being Nora Freeze from an alternate reality, who is searching for the cure for her husband's, I don't know, stanky leg, or whatever issue it was that they had in the comic. I don't remember. But yeah, so these are 4 designs that AI came up with. But did AI do a better job than the developers behind the Suicide Squad game? And I want you to be absolutely fucking honest. Because the only way we're going to decide what to do about AI, how to fight it, or how to accept it, or how to find a place for it, because AI is a tool, like any other, it's just a very scary tool. It's like the invention of fire. It could either warm you or it could burn down your village. But, you know, in order to decide these things, we have to be honest about what's going on. And we have to be real about this shit. And in order to combat AI, maybe people need to step up their game.